Hello, and welcome to the Coachman. For today's reading, we are going to be going over to England, if I'm correct. Um, and we're going to be reading a cool story by Charles Dickens, and it's a parable about life's journey in which a traveler asks all he meets, "What do you do here?" And they invite him to join them until it's time for him to move on. And the story is called the Child's Story. Once upon a time, a good many years ago, there was a traveler, and he set out upon a journey. It was a magic journey and was to seem very long when he had began, and very short when he got halfway through. To be honest, this sounds like a lot of my trips. He traveled along a rather dark path for some little time without meeting anything, until at last he came to a beautiful child. So he said to the child, "What do you do here?" And the child said, "I am always at play. Come play with me." So he played with the child the whole day long, and they were very merry. The sky was so blue, the sun was so bright, the water was so sparkling, the leaves were so green, the flowers were so lovely, and they heard such singing birds and saw so many butterflies that everything was beautiful. I gotta say, hearing that last sentence, it reminds me so much of Austria. When I went, it was just, it was always clear, it was always blue skies, sun was shining, birds were out. It was awesome. Also, I think a little bit of Switzerland as well. This was in fine weather. When it rained, they loved to watch the falling drops and to smell the fresh scents. Quick question. I already know the answer and I'm going to give it to you, but I want to know, do you know what it's actually called after it rains, like that smell? If you don't know, I'll give you a couple of seconds. See if you know, figure it out. And here's the answer. It's actually called petrichor. If you look it up, that there is a name for it. I was always wondering and I looked it up. So yeah, it's petrichor. When it blew, it was delightful to listen to the wind and fancy what it said as it came rushing from his home. Where was that? They wondered, whistling and howling, driving the clouds before it, bending the trees, rumbling in the chimneys, shaking the house, and making the sea roar in fury. But when it snowed, that was the best of all. They liked nothing so well as to look up at the white snowflakes falling fast and thick, like down from the breast of millions of white birds, and to see how smooth and deep the drift was, and listen to the hush upon the paths and roads. One more crazy fact about snowflakes. In the world, there have never been two that are alike. And now think about it. In Tahoe this past year, we almost broke the record of 54 feet. So think about it. 54 feet of snow, right? Not one of them are the same over an entire area. That's pretty amazing. And think about it. Around the world, never been the same. That's pretty awesome. They had plenty of the finest toys in the world and the most astonishing picture books, all about scimitars and slippers and turbans, and dwarfs and giants and Gero and fairies, and bluebirds and beanstalks and riches and caverns, and forest and valentines and orsons, and all new and all true. But one day, of a sudden, the traveler lost a child. He called to him over and over again, but got no answer. So he went upon his road and went on for a little while without meeting anything, until at last he came to a handsome boy. So he said to the boy, "What do you do here?" And the boy said, "I am always learning. Come and learn with me." Now I gotta ask a for a question, yeah? If you rolled up on a boy and he said, "All I want to do is learn," would you really want to learn? Because to be straight up and honest, I want to learn, but I ain't trying to learn all the time. Like that's almost like going back to school. I ain't trying to do that right now. Well, I actually am trying to go back to auto mechanic school, but still, who really wants to learn all the time? So he learned with the boy about Jupiter and Juno and the Greeks and the Romans, and I don't know what, and learned more than I could tell, or he either, for he soon forgot a great deal of it. Sounds like school, period. But they were not always learning. They had the merriest games they ever were to play. They rowed upon the river in summer and skated on the ice in winter. If you've never skated on a pond, I highly recommend trying it because I've never done it either, but it looks super sick. They were active afoot and active on horseback, another thing I want to do. At cricket, another game I want to play. And all games at ball. At prisoner's base, hare and hounds, follow my leader, and more sports than I can think of. Nobody could beat them. They had holidays too, the 12th cakes, and parties where they danced till midnight in real theaters, where they saw palaces of real gold and silver rise out of the earth, and saw all the wonders of the world at once. As to friends, they had such dear friends, and so many of them, that I want the time to reckon them all. They were all young, like the handsome boy, and were never to be strange to one another all their lives through. Still, one day, in the midst of these pleasures, the traveler lost a boy, as he had lost a child, and after calling him in vain, went on upon his journey. So he went on for a little while without seeing anything, until at last he came to a young man. So he said to the young man, "What do you do here?" And the young man said, "I am always in love. Come and love with me." So, in my opinion, this could go one of two ways. If they fall in love through that heartbreak, it's going to hurt. If they go scamp around for some yams, they could end up in heartbreak. So I guess it ends up in the same place. So he went away with the young man, and presently they came to one of the prettiest girls they ever was seen, just like Fanny in the corner there. And she had eyes like Fanny, and hair like Fanny, and dimples like Fanny. And she laughed and colored just as Fanny does while I am talking about her. So the young man fell in love directly, just as somebody I won't mention, the first time he came here, did with Fanny. I told you, watch, this ain't going to end well. Because if these two end up putting, throwing bows in the street, not going to be good. Well, he was teased sometimes, just as somebody used to be by Fanny. And they quarreled sometimes, just as somebody and Fanny used to quarrel. And they made it up and sat in the dark and wrote letters every day and never were happy asunder. And were always looking out for one another and pretending not to. And were engaged at Christmas time and sat close to one another by the fire. And were going to be married very soon. All exactly like somebody I won't mention and Fanny. But the traveler lost them one day, as he had lost the rest of his friends, and after calling to them to come back, which they never did, went on upon his journey. So he went on for a little while without seeing anyone, until at last he came to a middle-aged gentleman. So he said to the gentleman, "What are you doing here?" And his answer was, "I am always busy. Come and be busy with me." I like being busy. This guy sounds like he's going to be like me, busy. Because I'm not always busy, though, but I'm busy. There you go. Notification, get busy. So he began to be very busy with that gentleman, and they went on through the wood together. The whole journey was through a wood. Only it had been open and green at first, like a wood in spring, and now began to be thick and dark like a wood in summer. Some of the little trees that had come out earliest were even turning brown, The gentleman was not alone, but had a lady of about the same age with him, who was his wife, and they had children, who were with them too. So they all went on together through the wood, cutting down the trees and making a path through the branches and the fallen leaves and carrying burdens and working hard. Gotta love it. Sometimes they came to a long green avenue that opened into a deeper woods. Then they would hear a very little distant voice crying, "Father, Father, I am another child. Stop for me." And presently they would see a very little figure, growing larger as it came along, running to join them. When it came up, they all crowded around it and kissed and welcomed it, and then they all went along together. Sometimes they came to several avenues at once. Then they all stood still, and one of the children said, "Father, I am going to sea." And another said, "Father, I am going to India." And another, "Father, I am going to seek my fortune where I can." And another, "Father, I am going to heaven." So with many tears at parting, they went, solitary, down those avenues, each child upon his own. And the child who went to heaven rose into the golden air and vanished. I must say, thus far, I really like this story and where it's headed, and it's kind of cool. Because I wonder where, if we step back, what's really going on? Whenever these partings happened, the traveler looked at the gentleman and saw him glance up at the sky above the trees, where the day was beginning to decline and the sunset to come. He saw, too, that his hair was turning gray, but they never could rest long, for they had their journey to perform, and it was necessary for them to be always busy. At last, there had been so many partings that there were no children left, and only the traveler, the gentleman, and the lady went upon their way in company. And now the wood was yellow, and now brown, and the leaves even so of the forest trees began to fall. So they came to an avenue that was darker than the rest, and were pressing forward on their journey without looking down it when the lady stopped. "My husband," said the lady, "I am called." They listened, and they heard a voice a long way down the avenue say, "Mother, mother." It was the voice of the first child who said, "I am going to heaven." And the father said, "I pray not. The sunset is very near. I pray not." But the voice cried, "Mother, mother," without minding him, though his hair was not quite white and tears were on his face. Then the mother, who was already drawn into the shade of the dark avenue, and moving away with her arms still around his neck, kissed him and said, "My dearest, I am summoned, and I go." And she was gone, and the traveler and he were left alone together. And they went on and on together until they came to the very near the end of the wood, so near that they could see the sunset shining red before him through the trees. Yet once more, while he broke his way among the branches, the traveler lost his friend. He called and called, but there was no reply. And when he passed out of the wood and saw the peaceful sun going down upon the wide purple prospect, he came to an old man sitting on a fallen tree. So he said to the old man, "What do you do here?" And the old man said with a calm smile, "I am always remembering. Come and remember with me." I gotta say, I like remembering sometimes. Only sometimes, though, because sometimes remembering is just like the darkest stuff ever. So the traveler sat down by the side of the old man, face to face with the serene sunset, and all his friends came softly back and stood around him. The beautiful child, the handsome boy, the young man in love, the father, mother, and children, every one of them was there, and he had lost nothing. So he loved them all, and was kind and forbearing with them all, and was always pleased to watch them all, and they all honored and loved him. And I think the traveler must be yourself, dear grandfather, because this is what you do to us and what we do to you. So, with that being said, I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, or a wonderful week. For that, just wonderful. And until next time, take care.